Welcome to this sales demonstration video on the InterAcct Payroll module. The Payroll module is an optional standard module that's available to all users. Underneath the Payroll, we're able to have the basic details of our employees set up, and we have the options to group our employees by classes. Each of these classes determines what pay items this employee is able to receive, so that when an apprentice graduates, we're able to move him from his apprentice class to a new class, and all of the items that are available to that class will transfer. We're also able to have the options of using either the standard Australian tax tables, average tax, or manually calculated tax for each of our employees. So if we have employees that are on variable tax scales, they can choose to use the average tax and pay an annualized tax rather than using just the tax tables. All the different tax table options that are most commonly used are there, and you can choose which details you're wishing to pick. We're able to have multiple superannuation accounts set up for an employee, and we're able to add in all the different pay items in here. The system uses two basic options for all the pay items: whether they will use the base rate, which is the normal rate per hour that this employee would be getting paid, or whether we're going to have a fixed rate amount, such as where we might have a social club or any other allowance that we might be paying that employee. Different employees, even on the same class, can have different base rates. As long as the pay items that they would receive is not different, they can all be part of one class. So you can see here that Sally has been set up at $24.78 and John has been set up at $21.25 per hour. When we're setting up the class, we're able to add in any number of different pay items, and each of these pay items, you can see, has which is their default GL account. It is possible to have one employee with multiple very similar pay items that go to different GL accounts if we're wanting to break down their cost into above the line or below the line expenses in the profit and loss. When we're going through to put in a payroll transaction, and I'm going to add in a new weekly pay, and we'll say that this is going to be for the 1st of the 4th. It's weekly pay, and it tells me here how many employees are set up to be paid weekly. It now brings through all the suggested pay items that Sally was paid last week, and you can see here that Sally had 38 hours of normal pay and she didn't have any overtime. We can press enter to accept that we're going to be using the suggested 38 hours of pay, and if she also had 2.5 hours of overtime, it then adds that in. Because we have her set up using the tax tables rather than the average tax, it doesn't calculate the tax on each pay line, but rather calculates the overall tax based on whether or not she's gone over that threshold. If we add in another employee, such as John, we can see that last week John had social club as well as some overtime, and if we're just wanting to agree that it's the same this week, we can use the update command, which is Alt-U on the keyboard, to update all the lines, which will then agree that all the pay items that John can be paid from last week have been paid again this week. But even after we've done that, we can still come in here and change that. If we want, we can print out their pay slips, and we can see that it's brought up both the payslip for John and for Sally, and we can see here their different email addresses as to where they're going to go. Because we've set these employees up as having a default email address, it's going to try to email their payslips to them, but we could also choose to print those out. We can view the payslip. From here we can go through the normal auto payment or manual payment options to be able to mark that as having been paid. When we first start using the software, we can key in the opening balances for our employees. It asks us how many weeks of pay have there been, and then asks us for those number of weeks of pay how many hours has this person been paid. It also has the area to key in their entitlements. Back underneath the employee, we can see that it gives us a summary of what entitlements they have displayed in the number of hours, as well as, based on their current hourly rate, what the dollar value of those entitlements would be. If we go through to terminate that employee, that they're no longer working with us, it will bring through the leave that they have accrued as a suggested payout for that employee, but we can choose to change that. Well, you can also see underneath a fiscal summary which amounts that they've had as their total taxable for the year, any lump sum payments they've had, total super, what the current tax percentage would be. If we're using the average tax, this will show us if our average tax has been calculated correctly. There's other summaries within here for showing a detailed pay history of each pay item, an overall summary for that financial year of pay items, as well as a full ledger of each different pay. We're also able to put in here when this employee has requested leave, what type of leave it is, whether they're planning it or have to confirm that leave, and a telephone contact number for them while they're away on leave. We're also able to send out each year the data that needs to be brought into the tax tables, so that you're able to bring that into your system without having to manually set it up. But if you're wanting to set up unique tax tables or to change the scale on the tax table so that people pay slightly more tax at their request, you're able to do that underneath here. Within the standard system, there's also a number of training videos that run through how to set up each of the different areas of the software, as well as reports to pull through, summaries of what timesheets have been keyed in by those employees, and the standard group certificates or payment summary reports are able to be produced from within the software as well. If you have any further questions about the InterAcct Payroll module or anything else with InterAcct, please contact sales@interact.com.au. Thanks for your time.